Hey folks, Quill18 here, and welcome to another episode of Let's Fly. We are in X-Plane 11, and we're going to do a flight that is significantly different from the last one, where we flew the Boeing 767. We are instead going to be flying in a Cessna 172 Skyhawk. A very, very, very classic plane here. And pretty bare bones compared to what we just did in the last mission. But the reason I'm doing this is, one, it's always fun to go back and forth, but two, it's because I am going to be flying a job that I've got through FSEconomy. FSEconomy is a website where they give you where you can sort of like get jobs and things like that. It's all just virtual sim things. It's got a little plugin for your actual flight simulator so that it can like track that you've done the flight basically, but that's about it. So you get to sort of like imagine and give yourself a little bit more context to what you are doing. The way they've implemented it is you're a little bit more like almost like an Uber driver. Like if I check out Manitoulin East Municipal, one of my favorite little airports to fly out of, and if I go there, there are 5 groups of passengers waiting to go somewhere. There are 2 of the groups are pairs of people. There's a pair of people. There's another pair of peoples over here, and the rest are all singletons. 3 of the groups want to go to Gatineau Airport in Quebec, and 2 of the groups want to go to Wawa. Now, I actually just flew from Wawa to Manitoulin East Municipal here, and in particular, I did it using this airplane here, which is available for rental. The site has, sort of, I don't know, tens of thousands of airplanes scattered all over the world that actually like tracks where they are and where they get parked. The airplanes have owners, although sometimes they're just owned by the system just to populate the world. They have specific stats, they have specific prices to rent, and so on and so forth. They also all have a specific home base. And you get a bonus for flying towards that home base, and you have to pay sort of a penalty for flying away, although it's a little bit more like a deposit, you can imagine. So you can make like a round trip, for example, and you wouldn't pay anything at all. At some point, I could buy my own aircraft, but I don't have the money for that right now. I've only done one job, so I don't really have much in the way of cash, so I'll have to rent. There is a Cessna available here, and I do have access to a Cessna in my X-Plane. There are many different types of planes available on the website. Obviously, you'll need a copy of that in your simulator in some fashion, but it gives you great variety to fly. But yeah, this little Cessna here. What's interesting is each plane also has specific equipment installed. So this Cessna here does not have GPS at all. In game, this Cessna does have GPS, but what it does, the plugin will disable my ability to use like the nav link to the GPS. So I won't be able to like use this meter with the GPS. I won't be able to use the autopilot to sort of sync with the GPS or anything like that. Technically, this GPS will still work because they couldn't disable it entirely, but their explanation was, well, you could have a little handheld GPS in your hand and it's the equivalent there. It just doesn't link up to your plane. So those capacities are fun to link. Now, I was just going to fly back to Wawa, but the thing is, that's a good question. Now, all right. Now, the reason I was going to fly back to Wawa is because it's a nice flight. It's 175 nautical miles. It takes about an hour and a half to do, and it's not too shabby. But there's only 2 passengers that want to go there. Whereas I could load up all 3 seats. The Cessna that I've got is a 4-seater. 1 seat's for the pilot, so I could take 3 people here over to Gatineau. 265 miles. That places us close, not quite, but very close to 3 hours of flight time. The maximum rental on this plane is 3 hours. The base consumption rate is about 8 gallons per hour, so I'll need at least 24 gallons in there. Our capacity is 54, so it's about a half load. I could actually go up to 75% fuel, which would give me an overkill of fuel, and still fit in 3 passengers perfectly fine. I'm wondering if I should just do that. I can, of course, use time compression. I'm not going to do a video of the entire flight. I'll cut out the bit in the middle, but we could do that. You know what? Let's do it. It's pretty well paying. Well, I say that. They're only effectively per person, and actually this is even less. They're not really paying more than the flight to Wawa, which is shorter. Yeah, I'll only have 2 passengers, but you know what? I'm willing to bet the cost per hour, the revenue per hour is going to be really damn similar. The bonus to this as well is the bearing to Wawa is northwest over here, and to Gatineau would be east. This plane, the base of operations is to the southwest, so if I were flying to Quebec, I would have to probably, well, I'd be paying a fair penalty here. This is the cost per 100 nautical miles, so I would only be paying out like, you know, $75 or something like that as a penalty, so it's not really meaningful. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to tell these two passengers that I am going to go ahead and carry them, and I am going to go ahead and rent this Skyhawk. I can rent it dry, which means I'm responsible for my own fuel costs, or I can rent it wet. I don't know. Let's just rent it dry, and it'll add more incentive to manage our own fuel costs over here. So we're going to go ahead and rent it dry. So we've locked that. So we'd be paying $90 an hour on the rental price. So that is swell. If we pop back over to X-Plane over here, and we are not paused, that's good. If I go to plugins and I go to FSEconomy over here, open that, log in, confirm that that works. Logged in is good. I can say start flight. There we go. Passengers loaded. It set my fuel over here. But that is going to be fine, because I should be able to end this flight with lots of fuel left, although the wind is a little bit against me. I could load more fuel in from the website. I don't know if I should have done that before the flight, or if it matters, or if I can just cancel and reset it. Again, it's going to be less than 2 hours, and my burn rate should be less than, it should only be about maybe 17 or 18 gallons to rise. It doesn't leave me with much margin, but it will leave me with some. What could possibly go wrong? All right, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go and get our plane started, and while the engine warms up, we'll actually plan our flight. So we'll get the battery turned on, we'll get the avionics turned on. Throttle is working, that's good. There's really nothing else I need to do. The parking brake is engaged. Like, to start it off, we're going to go fully rich, and we're going to set about, I don't know, 1/4 throttle-ish, something like that. And let's go and start it. That is really quiet for me. I don't know if it's really quiet for you guys. Oh, I probably have, hold on a sec. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Good. Engine sounds hopefully not too loud for you guys, but that's going to be okay. We'll turn on the alternator so we stop draining the battery. I guess I should have put on my my beacon before starting over here. We're not going to need the fuel pump. I will turn on the pitot heats. It's, you know, it's September, and as we get high, it might get a little chilly. It is a beautiful, clear day. There is a wind coming out of the west at about 8 knots, which will slow us down a wee bit. Now, I actually, well, in real life it's that, and I should have real weather engaged. No, I don't actually have real weather engaged. We just have, you know what, I'm gonna leave it like this. So there's really no wind to worry about. I guess I could have checked the windsock back there. Yeah, it's pretty flaccid, so that's gonna be okay. That's gonna cut down on some of our flight time. So I'm gonna pull this back to full idle over here. Again, we're just letting some of the temps, the oil, kick in. Higher oil temp is gonna be good to keep everything lubricated. So, flight plan. Let me go and bring up SkyVector over here. SkyVector, I love this website. Just a nice little way to plan out your flights. We are at, where the hell are we? We are over here, Manitoulin East Municipal. So we are on the beautiful island of Manitoulin Island, the largest freshwater island in the world. Lake Huron to the south, and the North Channel and Georgian Bay being bordered on the other sides over here. And we are heading to Wawa, right over here. Wawa's quite a drive, but as the crow flies, it's not too bad, which I guess is why we're being paid. Probably some you know, wealthier like people going up for a hunting trip or something. I don't know what the idea is. Now, it's basically, you know, so it's you know, northwest. Fly northwest, you'll probably get there. But obviously, we need to have some sort of ability to track our movement along the way, which is a little bit annoying because you can see, well, a little bit annoying. It's going to be awesome because in this area, there's actually not the greatest type of various radio coverages. We've got, you know, a proper like VOR over here in Sudbury, but nothing over here, like nothing that we can get a radio from. anywhere around here. There is here, but I mean, that's, you know, obviously we'd be tracking our lateral kind of thing. There is one in Wawa itself. So we'll be able to tune that radio at some point. But until then, we don't. There is this sort of like, you know, sky highway over here that you can see that goes from this, the little beacon over here by Wawa. Follow this line. It's the ARTE 30 over here that draws a line to Elliott Lake. But this is just an old-fashioned, I don't remember what you call these, but you just tune into the ADF, so it doesn't tell you anything about radios or anything. The only thing you know is whether or not you're pointing directly at it or not. But that will be our goal. We will be pointing directly towards the Elliott Lake ADF. So we're going to try to tune this at 276 right now and see if we can pick that up. So that's going to be, you can see actually I already had that frequency in here from the flight to here. Yeah, it's, yeah, there we go. So the yellow arrow here is the direction towards, that signal. Let me go. I know that blinking's kind of annoying. If I do this, it will not fix it. Why is that? If I go and reset size. Huh. All right, well, let's just hope that we don't get any sort of graphic weirdness over here. Yeah, so as long as we're pointing towards there, we will be pointing directly towards Elliott Lake. And then for the actual, I know the screen just went black. And then for the actual stop in, or the tower in Wawa, that's 112.7. And we're going to be wanting to come in at, well, you know what I can do is I can just add that as a, boom, as a stop. So we'll get a proper sort of angle here. If I add this one as well, plan there. So do we not get an angle listed? I guess it's fly 324 until we get to this. Some sort of northwesty vector. So going this way, we'd be going at like a 142-ish. So if we add 180 degrees to that, that's 242, 322. 322 is the course we're going to want to take, pointing towards that. So, oh, and the signal. Sorry. What's the actual tower frequency? 112.7, which I probably have tuned in here, and I do. 112.7 is in there, and we're going to want to set our course to a 33. What did I say? 332? No, 322. Now, there's probably a faster way to spin this thing. If I just hold it down, does it go a little faster? It's going to be something like that. It's going to be the radial, assuming I'm right. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to take off pointing directly towards Elliott Lake. And then from out of there, we're going to be trying to follow a direction of 332. So our very first, we don't necessarily need to set a heading bug. But we may as well. And what, just in case we need it, what's our initial vector? 324 to start off with. Yeah, 324 to 322, assuming I've done the math anywhere vaguely close to correct. Oh, I should have gone the other way. Well, I still should have gone the other way, actually, after I realized it. You know, you get to a point where, like, well, I guess I keep going now, and you're like, no, I guess I shouldn't have. So it's going to be something like that is going to be our initial direction, which, as you can see here, the pointing is the same. Now, the actual heading around the ADF here is basically purely cosmetic or a way to help you calculate some stuff. It makes no difference whatsoever. We just want the yellow arrow to point for us. Okay, so we are going straight over here. Let's go ahead and get our nav strobe on, and we can probably just go. We are going to be on fully rich here. I'm going to go ahead and give us one setting of flap, although we're not going to need it to actually take off over here. We're looking, you know, good and clear everywhere. Excellent. All right, let's rev up the engine. Release the parking brake. Full revs. Ooh. Torque force really wants to pull it to the side. Really loves to do that. Some people have said that X-Plane may be a little too aggro with its torque forces, but let's go ahead. We should be able to pull up perfectly fine here. And climb At about a rate of 70 should be okay. Alright, let's go ahead and make a right turn to our direction. Let's bring our speed up to about 80 and raise the flap. There we go. So I'm just going to keep nosing up to try to keep the speed around 80 for our climb. There we go, roughly the right direction. If you check the little ADF meter, you can see we're almost going directly towards the yellow arrow, which means we're pointing towards Elliott Lake. I'm not pitching up fast enough here. Now, we're going west, and in theory, we're, probably doing, file the VFR flight plan or something like that. So we should be at an even altitude plus 500. So let's fly at, I don't know, 6,500? Actually, we can get a little bit of fuel economy and overall speed probably if we go to something like 8,500. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, I'm going to try to trim this. I'm needing a little bit of back pressure, so I'm going to go ahead and trim a little bit using the key on my joystick, although it's this little wheel here. So I'm just trying to get it so that I don't have to keep pulling backwards on, well, the joystick. Technically, the Cessna here would have a yoke. Pretty okay, and I don't mind the speed going up a bit. We're climbing at 500 feet per minute, and it looks like we need a scooch more. Let's see how that does. Also, I'm not actually on course, paying too much attention to one thing and not enough of the other. So, the flaps are up. This is the good. We can get rid of the... I guess these lights all have to be on right now. We don't need the fuel pump on or anything like that. We are gaining a little bit of speed. So a little bit more back pressure and a little bit of trim. Alright! Wings are not level! Right, of course, because it's still got the engine torque. I gotta keep an eye on that. Of course, I could just be looking at this here and the actual direction that we're going in. But, well, now I actually do want them tilted, so that's okay. I'm gonna go slightly to the right. Speed is increasing, but not anymore. I mean, if we're not level, if we're not level, then the speed and the climb is going to vary a bit. So let's go ahead and go over. So getting there is not going to be too bad. I mean, I could punch things into the GPS so that we could actually see our progression here. I think it's just not showing me the airports, because 200 nautical miles, yeah, I mean, that's as far as we're going. We're going 165 nautical miles, so I'll just bring down the range here. Nautical miles. Yeah, it's just not showing us all the things, but that's okay. CYZE. I think that's Gourmet. I think that's another part of the island. Alright, speed's good. Climb's good. We can probably start to lean out the engine. Yeah, the EGT is like nothing, so I'm going to start leaning out the engine a bit, which is going to dramatically cut down on our fuel flow. I probably could have done that immediately after lifting off, but I like to get the initial climb sorted first. Because, I mean, all we're doing right now is we're wasting fuel. There's actually a bunch of unburned fuel going out the back and just being wasted completely, which isn't great, considering, I mean, I don't have infinite fuel here, and I'm also paying for the fuel at the end of it. I'll be paying for whatever fuel I use. So what I like to do, so what's happening here is this lean thing is being pulled out ever so slightly. The higher your altitude, the thinner the air, so the less pumping fuel rate you need just to balance everything out. The EGT is the temperature of the engine. It's like the exhaust, I think, exhaust gas temperature, something like that. And the hotter that is, generally speaking, the more efficient everything is burning. So you want that to go up as much as possible. You can turn this dial just to as a reference to okay, I'm there, in case you need the visual help. If I go and lean it out a little bit more, Yeah, see, it's going to drop. So I actually want to richen it again. As we get up to 6,500, I'll probably be able to lean it out again a wee bit more here. Of course, this plane is equipped with an autopilot, and I will likely engage that once I get to cruising altitude and everything is good. I'll just tell it to like hold a heading, and then I'll be able to have breakfast. Is my plan. Breakfast in the air when everything is behaving properly. So yeah, so our actual fuel usage is currently at about, it looks to me like 9 gallons an hour. Now this plane is rated for fuel usage actually of 8 gallons per hour, which on the website, which means what it means is if, let's say you do something, let's say you cheat, you fill up the plane, or you turn on some sort of infinite fuel mode or something like that. If you use less fuel than FSEconomy expects you to, they will actually charge you for the fuel that would have been expected. There's a bit of a margin in there to allow for people to be like slightly more efficient, but they keep that fuzzy and whatever. So you get that. If you go over the expected amount, then they charge you what you actually used. So I would like to get my fuel per hour as close as possible to 8 gallons an hour, especially since I don't actually want to run out of fuel at any point. That would be really awkward for my 2 passengers, which are apparently invisible. But that's the way it goes. I can't see myself, though. Oh, that's loud. Hello. That is me, apparently. Also, in the Cessna, there's this great little bobblehead. Boop. A little Easter egg over there. Okay, we are, once again, not even. We're at 6,000 feet, so again, at 6,500, I will be leveling out. And other than having to correct basically for the engine torque, always wanted to push me over this way. It's pretty out here, isn't it? Other than that, I'm really having to do nothing on my joystick. Just a slight nudge to the right every now and again. This plane does not have any like rudder trim or anything like that. The only trim it's got is the stabilizers, the nose up, nose down kind of thing. All right, closing in here. I'm going to start applying forward pressure in a moment here to slow the rate of ascent, and that will then increase my speed because I'm going to be flying more level, which will then cause me to rise up again. It'll just take a little bit to get everything to sort of even out. So a little bit of forward pressure here. Okay, so we're still climbing, but very slowly. But then as my speed increased, we'll climb some more. As close to 6,500 as I can. I'll probably wiggle wobble a little bit here. Pitch down, pitch down. I'm not looking at the vertical speed indicator. That if you're chasing that, things will be bad. Chase the sort of altimeter. Hold it there. Okay. Now a little bit more forward. That's quite a lot of forward pressure. I'm going to start applying some stabilizer trim so that I don't have to hold quite as much here. We're going to continue on full throttle. There's no reason to bring the throttle down on this plane. Basically, I mean, if my RPMs were really redlining, I might bring it back like just 5% or something like that. But really, it can just run flat out. So again, trying to hold that 6,500 feet altitude. Pitching down a little. Still mostly applying forward pressure. Even actually when we're pitching up and climbing like this, there's still forward pressure on the stick. So just trimming some more. We're almost up to 112 knots maybe. Ground speed is 127 because this is indicated airspeed over here. Our ground speed is higher than that. That's why it's less than an hour and a half trip overall. Okay, more stabilizer. Should go a little to the left as well. Let's go ahead and do that now. And then once I'm satisfied that I have manually gotten us into nice level flight, I'll then turn on the autopilot. Oh, I actually need a little back pressure now. That's pretty good. There's always going to be a little bit of variation because, you know, again, your speed affects your climb angle affects your speed. So there's going to be a little bit of tweaking, and there's actually a limited granularity with my clicks to control the trim. Plus, I mean, in theory, there's wind and different things like that, but I have my hands completely off the controls right now. Completely off my controls. I am sort of eye level with some clouds, which is almost certainly a super bad thing. I should either be right above them or right below them. But I think that's going to be fine. So we're just over our target. I'm okay with this. So at this point, I'll feel pretty happy engaging the autopilot, tending to tell it to hold the current altitude and the heading as well, which means it'll actually do a slight turn over here just to properly lock me on the heading. I could have manually locked on first to the heading and then gone and engaged it, but that is perfectly fine. So now I can go and put a cut in this video, and I can go and eat breakfast. So the plane is going to try to keep me pointing towards this little orange knob over here, which right now happens to be correctly aligned with the Elliott Lake beacon over here. At some point, as we get closer, I mean, it might like be a little bit off one way or another. And of course, as we pass over it, it'll flip upside down and point behind me, which is going to be just fine. What we don't have is we do not have a signal on our nav over here. We haven't picked up the VUR by Wawa, which isn't a surprise. The range is not so huge. I gotta say, these little ADF beacons here, non-directional beacons, right? Non-directional, because they, yeah, all your plane knows is whether you're pointing to it or not. It doesn't tell you what radial you're on, so it's non-directional. They often have a really big range, and in fact, you can actually tune to basically any AM frequency, I believe, and use it as a non-directional beacon. And are we redlining on the RPM? A little bit, but you know what? Also, the other thing is I'm going to tune the richness here because almost certainly, oops, that's the wrong button. Almost certainly I can lean this out, get more fuel efficiency. We actually lose. No, we gotta stay fairly rich. I guess I should go higher if I want to be a little more fuely. And we're basically at the red line on the RPM, so yeah, I will just scrooge back slightly on the throttle. Obviously that'll slow down our flight, but that's okay. All right, I guess we'll do that. So yeah, we're going to use more fuel than by design. I don't know if that's 10 notch or this is the 10 notch. I think we're using 10 gallons per hour, which we should still be okay. Oops. Go back to the reference. Can I tell what I've got it set to? Yeah, thank you. Which should be okay, but I'm actually wondering if I shouldn't climb more. Well, we'll see. I'm still going to put a cut in here. I'm going to go have breakfast. Thanks for watching, folks. See you next time. By the way, if you're doing one of these and you know, you want time to go faster, most programs have a time accelerator. This is perfectly okay to use in the FSEconomy. Yeah, I accidentally touched the trim button at some point, which is why the autopilot was disengaged. There's also like a ground distance compressor that you can use that like just means that you're basically traveling 6 times as fast or something like that. You can't use that one because that would let you cheat the amount of fuel you use. But the time compressor still uses all the fuel. Everything runs. It just, you know, the world time runs faster. So in real life, you can spend a little bit less time. Yeah, these clouds are not correct for sort of VFR rated flight. This is actually, I should not be in the clouds. I'm going to climb. We're going to climb out of these clouds here. Go back to full throttle. I'm just going to use the autopilot to do it. Yeah, that's, I really should have been avoiding them. But if we do climb higher, we should be able to be a little bit more fuel efficient, a little bit less air drag. We can lean out the fuel a bit more. Everything will be okay. So I'll see about 8,500. I can even go to 10.5. I can even go to 12.5 in here. I think that's the ceiling effectively is around 13. But there's like all sorts of like, it's not a pressurized cabin, so there's all sort of like exercise, oxygen supply concerns and things like that. So I would be much more pleased with 8,500. Presumably we got a proper sort of weather forecast that says that's fine. And I guess we are IFR rated, I guess. So you know we can just do that. Sure, we are on the top side of the clouds now. Still in some of the wispy bits, but out of the soup proper, and still going to climb. So yeah, that'll be okay. I'll try to climb at 500 feet per minute. Our airspeed is sinking a bit to do this. It's possible as you get higher and higher, it can be a little harder for your plane to climb. And I'm still concerned about my overland speed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down to maybe 300 feet per minute. So our horizontal speed will stay up. I'm still going to try to climb to 8,500 though. So we'll do that. And then, yeah, hopefully we'll be able to lean out the fuel mix a wee bit more. We'll see. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll see you guys next time.